What's up, everyone? Welcome to our Instagram live chat today. I'm Jeremy, member of the Lifetime Athletic Events team here in Chicago. I'm stoked to discuss the Lifetime Chicago Half Marathon and 5K training plans with the one, the only, Coach Mike Thompson. Today's date is June 18th, which means summer and race season is in full swing, and I'm fully here for it. Bring on those finish lines and poolside chilling sessions. Let's go. So, as some of you know, uh, we are just under 3 weeks away from the start of half marathon and 5K training. And I say 5K because we are not going to forget about all those athletes taking on the 5K in September. We're looking out for everyone on the course this year. But with that said, Mike is going to be discussing some high level topics that will help you train better, train smarter, so that you can cross the finish line on September 29th. But before we get into that, Mike, how are we doing today?
I'm good, buddy. Yeah, real good. Got my workout in this morning. Gonna do a little swim bike tonight. But I'm here in Kansas and things are toasty, man.
Um,
You're in
sure.
Chicago. It's nice and humid there, I've heard.
Yeah, and I was just in Texas for a week, and it got me ready for the hotness here in Chicago. So we're good. But yeah, a little cross training, interesting. I think we might be discussing that today as well.
Ah, yeah, the old cross training.
For sure. But yeah, let's get into it. So with every training for a big race, there's obviously a training program, training plan. So what is the online training program that we're going to be doling out for the athletes this year?
Good question. We've got kind of four of them. We've got two races, right? We got the half marathon and the 5K. And so we have a more experienced program and a beginner program for each. So we've got two for the half and two for the 5K. Basically, it's a roadmap. It's a roadmap of what you should do. We had some people do that for the spring half marathon and had really good results. And we tell you what to do for your runs. We give you some direction with your cross training, and then you also have to fill in the strength. So we get really specific with the runs, and after we have you do a couple of time trials, you know specifically how fast you should be running.
Love it. Now, you mentioned beginner and experienced programs. Can you explain the difference between the two?
Yeah. The beginner program has one speed session per week. Okay, and that is for both the 5K and the half marathon program. And then the beginner program has three runs, where the more advanced program, the experienced program, has four, an optional fourth run. Okay, so where that fourth run for the beginners would be recommended to be a cross training session.
Awesome. So I guess before we get into that, we did a little experiment before the spring half this year. We call it a time trial. We
Hmm.
had some people come into the club, put some science behind it. Now, can you elaborate on what a time trial program or a time trial is?
Yep. So a time trial for the 5K is going to be a 1 mile all out effort. And the time trial for the half marathon is going to be a 5K. And what we do is we extract paces from that. So, for example, for everybody doing the half marathon, you can get out on a track, you can get on the lakefront if you're in Chicago, or you can get into a race. Ideally, you will run a faster time trial in a race than you will solo, and you will race a faster time trial with somebody or with a group than you will solo. So I think it's always important that you do it with somebody, even if your spouse or partner is with you on the bike or they're out on the track with you and they aren't even running with you. Just having somebody out there, you will perform better with somebody out there, and you will definitely perform better in a race than not in a race. Okay, so try to be with someone, and that's for a mile, that's for a 5K. Okay, so those are the distances of the time trials. If you do it, let's say on the lakefront, okay, and you're doing a 5K, I want you to know where the turnaround point is. That's really good to know. Okay, so let's say you're in Chicago and you're starting at Ohio, then you're probably going to run up, and I'm just making this up in my head, you're going to be probably running up to like Fullerton or something like that, and then running back. And so I think it's very important that you do an out and back rather than just a point to point, unless you know exactly where that 3.1 mile is. Okay. Because if you get to here and you're supposed to run to a roughly here, like my visuals here with my hands, your brain is going to say, oh crap, I don't know where it's at. I know I'm getting close. But if you've run it off and you know I'm starting at the old oak tree or finishing at the old oak tree, it's really good for your mind to be like, oh, I've got like 200 or 400 meters to go. So knowing exactly where that end point is very important for the brain. And that's why I like, if you're going to do the mile time trial, do it on a track. Okay. 4 loops, bada bing, bada boom. Super easy. I used to do some time trialing in Chicago, and I would start at Fullerton and I would finish at Castaways. But I would know exactly where the finish was within, plus or minus 10 feet. So I'd wait for my watch to lap, but I would hit the start button and I would run to the corner of Castaways. Okay. So I think it's very important to know that distance if you're doing it not in a race or not on a track.
I think that's really good advice too if you're going to do the time trial along the lake with the turnaround point. Just because, I mean, as most of us know, the Chicago half is going to have a turnaround point, so it's
Mm.
kind of to mimic the way the race goes. So, I mean, would you recommend, them do it in the morning or the evening? What would you say?
Yeah, you want to tee yourself up for success. So you got to be intelligent about when you're doing that time trial. You want to try to get the best time possible. So you're going to want to try and do it in the morning or after things start cooling down at night. I lead a track workout here in Kansas, and we get out at it at 5:30 in the morning. So uh, you're not going to get a very so the reason why you want to be successful with this is all of your paces after this get created. So if you're doing it in the middle of the day at noon in Chicago or someplace in the Midwest where it's super humid, and then you take that to heart, if you take that information and apply that information for the 6 8 12 week, then that's the information you got. So kind of tee yourself up for some good success by doing it at the right time of the day.
Nice.
um, yeah, really good question. And if you're doing it by yourself and you have a day where it's like super rainy or extremely hot, you have to be smart about it. Don't do it on that day. Maybe save it for a day that you can really get after it.
Um, with that, how far out in advance would you say to do the time trial before the training programs kick in? So, for all those watching, training for the half marathon and 5K begin July 8th. So, based on that, Mike, when would you recommend people to start doing their time trials?
So there's the coach in me always takes a deep breath, and I'm like, you could, if you've been running consistently, you could do it ASAP, and then you could redo it that first week because there's some learnability. There's some, when you do a time trial, the brain learns how hard to push. So you could test now and then test again. Okay. I always think about like high school cross country. When you do your first race, you're like, wow, I had no idea what I was doing in that first race. And so the second one, you do it, maybe not even because you're more fit, but your brain knows the distance of that. Okay, so this is an ideal situation. If you are a newbie, if you're a noob, we call them, right? You got to get some running under your belt. Got to get some running under your belt. So I would not recommend that you do an all-out effort unless you've got a good couple weeks of easy running, because it was not going to do you anything. It's not going to do you good to go out and do it without any minutes or miles under your belt. Okay, as a matter of fact, it's probably going to increase your likelihood of injury. So, and that's whether you're doing the mile or the 5K, get some miles under your belt. Okay, so if you can, and you've been running for a while, you could do it ASAP and then retest again that first week, so you're getting more accurate numbers. But if you're a noob, you could do it in that first week after you built up some miles.
Okay. Now, just as an example, let's say someone does the 5K time trial, they get an average pace of like 9 minutes. what does that mean for those paces in their training program?
That's a great question. So there are many pace calculators out these days, okay? But I'm going to make it really simple for you guys. And let's see, and get out your notepad if you're listening, okay? I'm gonna talk slowly, and I'm gonna say it again. Get out your notepad. So if you test the 5K, that's kind of like ground zero, okay? And everything is based off that. So I'm going to speak in terms of, so let's say ground zero. What'd you say your average pace was, Jeremy? 9 minutes?
Let's just throw out 9 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, 9 minutes. Great. So 9 minutes is your average pace for that 5K. And so what I'll do in the program is I'll say that there are runs that are based off your 10K and your half marathon, which is race pace. Okay. And then there'll also be runs that will be based off your mile. And so if 9 minutes is your 5K pace, then faster than that, your mile, okay, when we're doing some speed work, is minus 45 seconds from your 5K pace. So that's going to be about an 8:15. 8:15. Now understand that there's got to be gray area. It's not perfectly 8:15, 8:15, and that's the only, there's gray area. For example, the individuals, and this is the coach in me like thinking about different case studies, the individuals that are more speed and power based athletes, their true mile pace might be closer to an 8 or an 8:55 or 8:50. For those who aren't as much of a power-based athlete, those may be more like an 8:30. Okay, so there has to be gray area, but at least this gives you a little bit of direction. And then to go the other way, your 10K pace is 15 seconds slower than your 5K, so that'd be a 9:15. And your half marathon pace is roughly 30 to 60 seconds slower than your 5K pace. Okay. And then your easy pace is anywhere from a minute and a half to 3 minutes. Okay, so the ranges get much greater. So if we're looking at 10K pace, which is really close to the 5K, it's 15 seconds. Okay, and then like a tight window of probably like 5 to 10 seconds. And then the further away from that we get a more generous, and we get given grace a little bit more. And so I think what's really important to understand is that 5K, the easy pace is about a minute and a half to 3 minutes slower than that. Okay. And so if you're going on a run and your 5K pace is 9, then you're probably going to start, maybe you start up at like 12, 11:30, and you kind of build into that run and see how the legs are feeling. Okay. And that's where we have to use a little bit of intuition, like, hey, my legs are feeling good. I'm going to pick it up after the first 5 minutes, but I'm not going to go any faster than like a 10:30 pace today. Or like, hey, I'm good. I'm going to settle in at this 11:30 pace because it's my easy pace, and that's what my legs are giving me today. That's what my heart's giving me. Maybe I didn't sleep very well. Okay, your heart rate's a little bit elevated. Whatever happens, I know life happens. So I think you got to give yourself a little grace on those easy paces.
Yeah, and of course, as we progress through the training plan, people are going to get stronger. Their endurance is going to get much better, so those times are going to change.
Ah,
So they'll just adjust along the
that's
way.
true. That's true. I think another good thing to think about when we often like to do these time trials, and if you're at Lifetime and have access, we do metabolic testing, okay? And that's another really good thing that you could layer on top of this time trial is you could say, hey, I've done my metabolic testing, and now I actually have heart rates to use. Okay, so when I'm going on my easy run, I'm going to use that zone 2 aerobic heart rate just to lock that in. And
Mhm.
if you're given a range, you start on the lower end of that because you're going to get what's called cardiac drift, and your heart rate will naturally drift as you fatigue. As your core temperature goes up, as your legs get a little bit fatigued, they get a little less poppy. You're going to have to do more work, and your heart rate tends to drift up. The degree in which that drift happens, so if you have an aggressive drift, yeah, I got to work on your aerobic capacity. But if you have a very gradual, slow drift at that pace, you probably have a pretty good aerobic capacity.
Yeah,
Um, the other thing, nasal breathing is a great way to indicate that you're truly in that easy zone. So if you're out running and you can keep your mouth shut completely, and only use your nose, that would be a good indicator of that you're not going too hard. Okay, it's kind of like a governor on a car or a golf cart. Okay, it will kind of protect you from going too fast. And I know that a lot of people out there type AAA, more is better, and that's not necessarily the case. The benefit of truly staying in that easy aerobic zone is it improves the plumbing. Okay, if we've got this big old heart, we got something in that heart called your left ventricle. So we have four different chambers, and that left ventricle with aerobic training can actually get bigger in size. And so with each stroke, we are able to displace more blood to the rest of our body. So the actual plumbing gets better. But if we're going too hard, we're starting to secrete one, stress hormones, two, lactic acid, and we're not truly building that aerobic capacity. So early in our training, stay true to that aerobic zone. Use nasal breathing, do your time trial, use your paces, or pro move, the gold standard is to get that metabolic test.
Definitely some sage advice there. So I noticed because the training plans are going to be pretty much similar in terms of the half marathon from the spring half that we just completed in May. Um, Throughout each week there was some cross training days in the
Oh
program.
yeah.
So what does the cross training day entail?
Yeah, I've been reading some new research, and lumberjack axe throwing is definitely the way. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, Non-impact activities that could be walking, that could be rowing, that could be skier, that could be assault bike, that could be swimming. We also have this amazing plug, the Lifetime app, and we have lots of classes on there. And really, what we want is we want to do things that get your heart rate up into that aerobic zone. So, yoga is good, but I would consider that more a stretch, and that can be an element and should be an element in the training. But my belief is that cross training should be something where you're getting that heart up into that aerobic zone. Okay.
Mhm.
But the app has got like cardio strike, it's got different strength classes, it's got dance classes, which actually could be a really good form of cross training. Like I know some hip hop classes that, I mean, some Latin classes that your heart rate will be up, you'll be sweating. That's a great little form of cross training. Okay. So if we've got the elements in the program, we definitely got the run, we got the cross training, the lifting, and then the yin-based practices. Okay. So, but definitely go to the app and use that as a reference. And I think that there's something for everybody there. Like, I like to think that we all grew up with a different background, and some things resonate with some individuals and some resonate with others, so not everybody grew up at a lake or in a pool, so maybe some people like to do spin classes, or some people maybe like to do alpha conditioning, right? So we just, on those cross training days, if you are a beginner, we just really want to try to limit the amount of impact to let the old legs recover.
And for those that aren't lifetime members, the Lifetime app is free. You can just go on, at their where you get your apps and just look up the Lifetime app, download it, and then you might see a familiar face through one of the classes as well. So, um, yeah, I think that's kind of all that wanted to discuss about the training coming up. Again, for those just watching, training plan starts July 8th. The programs will be ready to be announced via email on our website sometime next week, so be on the lookout for that. And I guess, Mike, do you have any other words of encouragement, any advice for our runners that are watching today or in the future?
Yeah, I think just when the program gets delivered, print it out. Like the little kid that likes to see how he did, print it out, put it on your refrigerator, make it visible, and make it social too. Like, go ahead and tag Chicago Half Marathon. Go ahead and tag me. I love that stuff. DM me if you guys have got additional questions. I'm here for you. And I'd say if you're new to this running thing, consistency is key. I know it's kind of cliche, but uh, and a walk running is a great place to start. It could be 30-second run, 30-second walk. that's where you have got to do you. You have got to give yourself grace. Just because the program says something does not mean that it's set in stone. There has to be gray area. And this program is meant to hit the middle of the bell curve, hopefully. And so, obviously we have people that are outliers that might be able to run more, and we have people that might not be able to run as much. So that's where ask a coach, ask me, ask somebody at Lifetime, what should I do for my cross training, or how should I modify this because it should be modified. So yeah, walk, run, be consistent. Actually, it's about 10 years ago, I heard that there was really good benefits in 30 minutes of aerobic training. And if you look at the benefits, they come at about 30 minutes. And then after you get up to about 60 minutes, you still get benefits, but it's not as great as that. It's like not that much more than the 30 minutes. But what I actually heard recently was that 20 minutes, there's great benefits at 20 minutes. So when people are like, oh, I can't do the run, I don't have 60 minutes. Get out for 20 minutes then. Get out for 25 minutes. Get out for 30 minutes. Get out before dinner. Get a 20-minute little bike ride in before a class. That aerobic training does go a long way. Okay. So those are my tips, is to be consistent and don't think that a workout has to be this beautiful, well-rounded 60 minutes. It can also be a 20, 25, or 30 minutes. There's great aerobic benefits to that. And what happens is the heart and the body is ultimately looking for signaling, and that signaling starts getting significant at about that 20, 25, 30-minute mark.
Nice. Love that.
Boom.
Well, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. For everyone watching, follow Fast and Fit Mike on Instagram for more, running, weight training, all types of fitness related content. He's the man behind the program. And thanks for everything, for your time. And training's just around the corner. We'll see you at the finish line, folks.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks, Jeremy. See you
All
guys.
right.
Good
Take
luck.
care.